This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Rival Recon here on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Harry Sethi. A postponed Merseyside derby enabled Arne Slot's Reds to get a well-needed rest last weekend, as their serious rivals failed to make ground on them in the league. A hard-fought win over Girona midweek saw Liverpool maintain their place at the top of the Champions League, and now their focus can return to ensuring that they extend their lead at the top of the Premier League. So standing in their way are Marco Silva's Fulham, who arrive at Anfield this Saturday afternoon, fresh from holding Arsenal to a well-earned draw last weekend. And joining me on the pod this week to talk over how Fulham's season is unfolding and Silva's impressive ability to get the most out of his squad, I welcome on journalist for the Sporting News and Fulham fan, Kyle Bonn. Welcome back, Kyle. Good to speak with you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited about it.
Before we hit record, I was complaining about the dark nights or 3 p.m. dark afternoons and things like that, and trying to get my energy up, and shouldn't complain. At the moment, it's a very fun time to be a Liverpool fan. It's, I think, unexpected progress so quickly under Arne Slot this season. And well, with the new Champions League format, enjoying being able to say things as annoying to other fans as top of all the leagues for as long as I'm able to do that, right? So if I can keep winding up, particularly Arsenal fans, it seems like online with that phrase, long may it continue. But we're not going to talk about Arsenal on today's pod, although we maybe have a quick mention of how Fulham fared against them last time round. But Fulham, I was saying to you just as we started, one of the more interesting clubs, actually, I think, in the league in terms of getting on with their business, the progress they've made under the manager, and just quietly getting about being quite a solid side. So I wanted to ask, if we get into this season, 13th place finish last time round. That's after losing, the talismanic striker in Mitrovic as well, unexpectedly quickly, given how he ended up going in the end. Let me know your thoughts on last season, how it transpired.
Yeah, last season was definitely a season of transition. I think what we saw last year was confirmation of the fact that Marco Silva is a very good manager. I think that was the story of last year, because you looked at his first year 2 seasons ago, I believe it was, and you say, all right, when we really parsed out the underlying numbers for Fulham, the one that stood out to me was that they overperformed their expected goals conceded versus the actual goals that they conceded. They gave up, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, the most expected goals conceded in the entire Premier League 2 years ago. And Bernd Leno was far and away the MVP of the season. And I looked at that and I said, a regression is coming. They're going to be in the relegation battle. I didn't think they would get relegated, but I thought they would be in the mix, in that cyclone, if you will. And it just didn't happen. They managed to bring that defensive frailty down and burn Leno to do what he did 2 years ago. So you look at that and you say, Marco Silva is working one is odd of a top half squad as you can have. There are some very good players, but they are leaning on those good players excessively. And usually over the long term, that's a losing formula. But Marco Silva's been able to make it work. And they brought in some valuable components, but they still lean on Liverpool to do a lot. And then you looked at, all right, João Palhinha's leaving. Last year, right? He was one of the guys that hit that, and they're doing fine without him. They've plugged other holes to paper over the fact that Palhinha's not there anymore. So Marco Silva just continues to show that he can maximize a squad, a mid-table squad. I'm not so sure he would be a candidate to move to a big club because I don't think he's fit for that. But man, has he found his sweet spot.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that as well, right? Actually being able to maximize like what you can get out of a collection of players. Like, I mean, safe mid-table finishes for a club, as you mentioned there, that were dealing with kind of these yo-yo campaigns and dreadful kind of defensive records. And I remember sort of many seasons ago, well, it feels like many seasons ago now, but it wasn't too long ago where people were laughing up the strategy on transfers when Fulham came up one year and signed huge numbers of players, and then it proved too difficult to integrate all those players. I think there's something to be said about coming in. Yes, like the primary focus of a defensive foundation to build that, but actually not turning the team into it's very difficult not to be derogatory here, but like not to turn the team into a side that you'd usually see sort of battling relegation, where it's a real conservative approach and there's not much adventure, not much expansive play. Like when Fulham play, they play football. They're expansive. The combinations between some of those key players that we'll probably come on to talk about, Iwobi, who's another one who sort of like transformed his career in terms of how he plays and sort of the role that he picks up now.
And I think to your point there, I think that's another notch in Marco Silva's, book, is that Fulham tried play like this a number of years ago when they came up and made all those changes. They wanted to play possession football, to play attacking football, because that's what we're used to in the Championship. And so many other clubs, including Fulham, have failed to translate that, right? You need possession with attacking, and then you have to move up and change. And the debate is, do we completely alter who we are to fit the mold of a newly promoted club, or do we just keep doing what we want to do? Ipswich is facing that this year. They're fun, but they're losing a lot, right? So do you lose a lot and be entertaining and then get relegated, or do you change who you are? Fulham faced that a number of years ago. They tried to play exciting, attacking, entertaining football, and they did, but they lost a lot and got relegated. So I think it's to Marco Silva's credit that he's able to play this attacking, exciting style, entertain fans, and also get results as a mid-tier club in the Premier League, because it doesn't always go well when you try to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a topic that's really up for debate at the moment in the Premier League as well. I mean, and not just around sort of clubs that are coming up and trying to stay in the league, or clubs that are trying to solidify their status in mid-table. But I'm thinking about, sides like, for example, Tottenham at the moment, right? And what they're going through, and some of the criticisms that are being directed Ange Postecoglou's way. Like, yes, your philosophy is very exciting and can lead to some fantastic like combinations of attacking football and things like that. But if you're not willing to be pragmatic in moments, not say abandon your philosophy, but be pragmatic in moments when you need to be, ultimately you're not going to pick up results. You're going to be fragile, and you're going to allow yourself to be vulnerable to some of these games where you, for example, the last one, 2-0 lead, and end up losing that game 3-2. So it's something that needs to be acknowledged. And I mean, we've seen other managers who've been sacked for not having a philosophy. So it seems like Eric Ten Hag, for example, like really struggling to implement any kind of coherent philosophy after many years at Manchester United. And another one that comes to mind, just because every single game has been such a wonderful example of it, except against Liverpool, where they did decide to go more direct and play a little bit differently, but ultimately conceded from this. Southampton, I mean, Russell Martin is putting on a clinic in, just there's being committed to your philosophy and backing it, and then there's just being, I think you would have to accuse him of naivety at this point, just because of how often they're being picked off and the way in which they're being picked off, trying to play out of the back, etc. So I do think there's something to be said about managers like Marco Silva, who, perhaps 4-2-3-1 on paper. Maybe it looks more like a 5-4-1, actually on the ball at times, and you're not afraid to do that against sides like Arsenal, sides like City. But I think there's something to be said about managers who are willing to be pragmatic like that. And I wanted to ask you, so at the end of last season, seeing the progress that was made without a striker, what did you think that the club would have to do? And this can be in the market, but it can also be, maybe just around how they approached, how they played, to kick on this season?
It's a good question. I think they needed to pick out who in the squad struggled last year that they thought would have an improvement this year. And then say, because you can't plug every hole, right? With a club with the resources like a mid-tier Premier League side, you have to decide, all right, we have 7 positions we'd like to improve. Which ones can we afford not to? And then which ones do we need to? I think it's interesting because the one that I thought needed improvement but could be dealt with was the number 10. Andreas Pereira is a really good player, but he's just highly inconsistent. He's your kind of player that will dazzle for 2 games and then go missing for 4. And as a mid-table club, you can deal with that. You're not expected to win every game. You're not in a title race. So you take the good with the bad. And they went out and got Emile Smith-Rowe. They went to improve it. Pereira's still playing some, but Smith-Rowe's the guy now at the 10. And I was surprised by that, but it's been largely effective. I think Smith-Rowe's been really good. What I think has been weird about it is that Marco Silva, I think his biggest struggle as a manager is in-game management in terms of substitutions. And he's married to yanking Smith-Rowe at the 60-minute mark in just about every game. And I don't really understand why. He's done it in games where they're losing. He's done it in games where they're winning. He's done it in games where Smith-Rowe has been great. He's done it in games where Smith-Rowe has been invisible. I don't really understand why he's doing this so repeatedly, but that's what they've come in to really be every game. And it's working, question mark. I'd like to see him in there for a full 90 minutes more often because he's been good, even though it's not like dazzling. It's been strong and effective. The one who they really have leaned on heavily, and it's been worked out, is Iwobi. You mentioned Alex Iwobi earlier. I think in the offseason, they looked at Alex Iwobi and they said, we can build an offense around this guy. And it's worked. And then you look at the strike role, you said, They didn't really have a striker last year. Rodrigo Muniz was a surprise, but I think they looked at him and they said, that's one we can expect to regress. And they leaned instead on Raul Jimenez. And again, it hasn't been pretty at times, but it's been somewhat effective. He's scored big goals. And, he's not going to challenge for the Golden Boot, but he's scored big goals. And then they looked at the loss of João Paulinho, and they said, this is one we need to replace. We can't really paper over this. And they got Sander Berge, who's been great. He's not the flashy player like Paulinho is, who's going to go in flying into tackles, get yellow cards constantly, and make a counter-stopping tackle. But his defensive work rate is outlandish. I mean, you look at his numbers just from when they played Arsenal. 5 of 6 tackles won. And 10 defensive actions. And he won 8 of 12 duels overall. I mean, that's Paulinho numbers. It's just not as exciting, right? But it's effective. And it took him a little while to get going, but man, he's been great. And so I think they did some really good business in the transfer window. And I'm at the point with Marco Silva where he may do things I don't agree with, but it's working. So I'm gonna stand down.
This episode is brought to you by Disney Plus. Game on, because ESPN Plus content is available on Disney Plus. You can watch your favorites from Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus together like never before. With ESPN Plus, unwrap a full day of NBA action on Christmas Day. Tip off the festivities with the Spurs and Knicks, followed by the Mavs and Timberwolves. Then a clash between the Lakers and Warriors, followed by the 76ers and Celtics. And finally, the Nuggets face off against the Suns, all streaming December 25th. Then with Hulu, watch the terrifying sci-fi thriller Alien Romulus, where a group of young space colonizers come face to face with the ultimate horror. And on Disney Plus, follow the adventures of 4 kids across the galaxy as they meet unlikely allies and enemies in Star Wars: Skeleton Crew, starring Jude Law. All of these and more now streaming and available with a bundle subscription. Visit DisneyPlus.com for details. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, weirdly, I seem to remember Emile Smith-Rowe being hooked before full-time as being a trend that happened at Arsenal as well, actually, around maybe towards the end of his time at the club, but didn't seem to do a full 19. I wonder exactly what the reason behind that is if the perception is that he fades badly or whatever in the last 10 or 20, or like, I'm sure the manager will have a reason for it, but it's slightly a strange one. And Sanderberg, I remember like him being linked loads and loads and loads of times with Liverpool over the past couple of years, largely just because of the numbers, like you mentioned. It may not be flashy, and I remember whenever he was linked, people were like, "Oh, it's not as flashy as Caicedo. He's not exciting as this guy or that guy that Liverpool may have been linked with, and then ultimately didn't sign." But he did the numbers in terms of actually getting about the pitch, being a physical presence. He's obviously a very big big footballer as well. And then one move I saw that when I spoke to the Palace fan I had on ahead of the show against Crystal Palace, he said anyway that it was an unexpected departure. Actually, they were prepared all summer to maybe lose Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace, but the fact that Joachim Andersen ends up being the one that leaves, somebody I've always thought was a pretty classy footballer, to be honest, and underrated. Maybe it's just because of his age and the club that he found himself playing for. But how's he been as a signing as well?
Yeah, the issues with Anderson are injuries. They're not performance related. So he's going to miss the Liverpool game with, I believe, a calf injury that's sort of niggling. But he's been good. I mean, and I've always rated him. He was with Fulham a number of years ago and was very good. I think it was on loan, I want to say. And I was hoping that we would sign him outright, and it didn't happen. Went to Palace, and he's been great. And it's funny, everything comes full circle for us here as American fans. We were hoping, regardless of whether there was a Fulham fan or not, we were hoping that Anderson would leave Crystal Palace or Gahey, because we needed Chris Richards to get playing time there, because Richards is a fantastic player and somebody who needed to see the field. And so with Anderson leaving, Richards has been able to get more time at Palace. So it's sort of a double whammy for us here, but he's been great. The issues with Fulham at the back are problematic, especially for this Liverpool game. Calvin Bassey's been really good, but he's really struggled pretty much his whole career before Fulham and since coming here with discipline. So he'll be out of yellow card accumulation. And then you've got Anderson who's injured. So your center back partnership is going to be Issa Diop, who I think is the biggest or the weakest link at Fulham right now. I just do not rate him as a player. He's never been the 18 million pound or 18 million euro signing that they expected him to be. And he's just an error waiting to happen. And then, you've got Jorge Cuenca, who's, I think that's how you say his name. He's barely played this year. He's basically their fourth center back and will only be playing in this game because they need him. So I don't really, in all fairness, know much about him. And so it's a little shaky, and that's going to be what I think Arne Slot will target, because I've said it I did another preview for this game for somebody else, and I said there's going to be two key battles in this game. Maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think it fits into this a little bit. It's going to be Salah against Anthony Robinson, who has been far and away Fulham's best player, along with Wobie. Another player that Marco Silva's tactics they lump everything on him. They're just like, you play one-on-one with their best attacking player. You go forward and get to the box. I mean, he has to do everything. He has so much responsibility in the team. And so you've got Salah against Jedi, and then you've got Darwin Nunez against himself. I mean, that's what it's been all year long for Liverpool, and he's going to get opportunities. He's going to get, between Diop and a fourth string center back, he's going to get chances. It's just about converting them.
An interesting one on Nunez, because actually I think, well, when I was speaking with some Liverpool fans after the game against Girona in midweek, I think the feeling was that perhaps we actually might see him on the bench for this game, given recent performances, given recent struggles, to be honest, in front of goal. I think he looks as though, because he's had to play so often just because of the Jota being out and things like that. I think the intention's been pretty clear from Arne Slot. He's tried to play him into form and play him long enough that he could grab a goal, but actually he just looks like he's being a little bit stifled by the system in some ways, in terms of sort of what this system tends to do for the centre forward, and how there's a lot more focus on the wide forwards and the wingers in terms of the chances that they get. But I think also, let's be fair here, that there's a number of chances that he has every single game that should be the type of chances that a Liverpool number 9 finishes comfortably. I think no point in getting on his back too much at this point, because of course he had to support this guy for the rest of the season and hope that he catches fire, which he's capable of. He's capable of doing that. We've seen this. But right now, I think Liverpool fans are probably wondering just how fit Diogo Jota is, back in full training this week, it looked like. Chiesa as well, back in training, which will be fun to see him actually play some football, which would be great. And then also, I think maybe some Liverpool fans thinking that it could be Diaz through the middle and Gakpo as the left wing option. But we'll see. We'll have to see in time as it gets closer to the game.
I'll give you one number on Darwin Nunez. And it's a weird one, because the way that I've sorted it here, I pulled this on December 4th, so it's a week old. There could be some small changes, but the overall point stands. Since Darwin Nunez joined Liverpool at the start of the 2022-23 season, amongst that span of the top 50 goal scorers in Premier League, so anybody with 13 plus goals since that time, Nunez has the worst goal to XG differential of anybody in that span. So he's at minus 7.83. He's got 22 goals on 29.83 expected. So he is the player who is scoring, but also worst relative to his chance value. So the question with him is, are the worldies worth the misses, right? And so that's what you're sort of debating with Nunez, and numbers would say, no, they're not. Now, he's still a very exciting player. He still has a lot of quality. He still has a lot of skills. He can score in goals. He can score from anywhere. He has a lot of talents outside of just pure goal scoring, right? So he does a lot of things. But when you look at purely his finishing, it's not been great. And what's wild about that is, I remember when he first joined Liverpool, I did a preview before that season, before he played a minute for the Reds, and I said I thought he would win Golden Boot that year, because I looked at his numbers before joining Liverpool, and his finishing was outstanding. He was an outstanding finisher. So who knows what the reasons are? Is it tactics? Is it environment? Is it level of competition? Whatever it might be. But he has not finished at a good or expected level up front. And so whether it be he needs a tactical switch to get the best out of him, does he need to sit? Does he need to switch positions? I don't know. But something has changed, because it's not been good.
Yeah, no, I do think he'd thrive in a team where his only job is to constantly wait to run in behind. I mean, he's lightning quick. I think another side where he's not asked to do anywhere near that work rate that he's being asked to do here. And to his credit, he's really worked hard at this season to get better in those aspects of his game, to link play better, to press in a more effective way, which is sort of the only way he's going to get into the team as well. He undoubtedly has gotten better at that stuff. He's getting fewer chances, I'd say. I think that's the tactical change. That's last season. One of the infuriating things about Nunez was that he'd always get about 4 or 5 chances, and you'd be like, "Oh, he's taken 2." But we could really have done with like him scoring that one or whatever. And this season he's getting far fewer, and then I think that probably ratchets up the pressure even more, right? That he's getting fewer chances. He knows that he's not. I think the record is something like 3 or 4 goals in 28 games so far. So it's not good. And yeah, I think my concern is just that it's. Whilst I am delighted to see the shape that Mo Salah is in, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, at the moment, and his ability to maintain these numbers, I'm Very happy to see Diaz's improvement and Gakpo's improvement. I just think that you can't rely on that all the time. And what's maddening about Nunez actually is you don't even need him to really necessarily become this elite Thomas Muller kind of like finisher, like ruthless in front of goal, Lewandowski like guy. All you need him to do is league average based upon the number of chances he gets. And then you're probably going to get yourself a 20, 25 goal a season striker. So it's the thing that's, I think a decision probably will be made at the end of the season on his future, and we'll have to see which way that goes. But already saw a few rumors swirling online about some inquiries around João Pedro. So who knows what that means? He seems a very Liverpool kind of target anyway. So I'd be interested to see how many millions and millions of pounds we'd have to pay Brighton to get someone like that after the recent history. But we'll come back to Nunez. And I wanted to you mentioned Jimenez at the start, and that for me is a really good, like a really feel-good story. I mean, given sort of the nature of the injury he had, how hard he's had to work to get remotely close to the level that he was at beforehand, to see him, not all the time, but every so often having a performance that reminds you of just how much of a difficult physical presence he was to deal with, the pace, the strength, the finishing, which I guess we saw against Arsenal, right? In that one moment.
Yep. He's been, I don't want to say fantastic because, you have to temper your expectations, but he's been good, and he's been what Fulham need. And I think that's what Marco Silva wants from every player in this team. I think you would describe this Fulham team as the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's what he's all about. And that's what Jimenez does well. He can pass well. He can finish well. He doesn't get a glutton of chances up front, and he'll miss a few, but he finishes at a pretty average clip, and then he'll score. I mean, do you remember that assist that he had? I think, was it Palace? I'm looking at his sheet now. I think it was the Palace assist where he backheeled it. I mean, he's got great talent. He, like you said, he's an imposing physical presence. It's funny because for us as American fans, this is your typical, we have to root for him at the club level and root against him with the Mexican national team, right? So that's what American Fulham fans have to debate with Raul Jimenez. But I think, he's been fun to watch. Sometimes can crop up with some disciplinary issues. I mean, that red card he got last year was mind-numbing, but I don't think it's been a consistent problem. And yeah, he's just been annoying for defenses to deal with, and I think that's exactly what they needed out of him. And he's a really good aerial target, which is perfect for the way that they play. I wouldn't say that Fulham are a direct team by any means, but they love to pump crosses into the box, and they will play goal kicks along. So Jimenez is a good fit in that regard. And yeah, he's just been so good. And I think he's one of two feel-good stories on this Fulham team in the attack. And I think the other one is Adama Traore. I think you look at Adama Traore and, what he's become. And again, Marco Silva has found a way to maximize a player who is incredibly specific. I mean, Adama Traore does like two things at an elite world-class level and nothing else. He can dribble, and he can play good attacking balls. Like, he can pass in a good attacking move. He cannot finish, and he doesn't defend. There's not much else to his game. But Marco Silva has managed to maximize that. And what's fascinating about it is when Traore was with Wolves, and then a little bit with Barcelona too, his dribbling numbers were like through the roof. But it didn't really translate to much, not just for him, but for the team, right? Like, he would score a few insane goals sometimes. He would get a couple cool assists, but on the whole, there wasn't much end product at the end of those just glutton of dribbles. Everybody mostly with Traore was like, whoa, look how jacked he is. That was kind of who he was as a player. His dribbling numbers, compared to what they were, are actually a little bit down. they're still good, but they're down from the insane levels they were at one time in his career. But he just fits well in the attack. And Marco Silva has been able to make a very specific player work to the team's advantages. And I think that's been really fun to watch, because Traore was down and out for a while. I mean, people looked at him and said, is this guy ever going to be what we thought he would be, or even close? The answer to that is no, but he's at least now been productive for Fulham. I think that's to Marco Silva's credit and the players' credit for fitting into the system and making it work.
Has he tended to start, or has he been used in that way where he's like kind of a secret weapon with like 20, 25 minutes to go just because of his sort of natural physical talent?
He's mostly a starter. He's actually come off the bench more in recent weeks. I'm not quite sure why, but he started against Arsenal. So I would expect him to start against Liverpool. But he's been fun and good and perfect for what they need in this system. It's a very outside-in attack. Lot of fullback action. A lot of wingers glued to the touchlines. Not like Liverpool, where you see the wingers cut inside and then the fullbacks overlap. If the fullbacks are overlapping at Fulham, they are literally overlapping the wingers, and sending crosses into the box. So it's a very outside-in attack, and Traore fits that well. He's not a guy who's going to cut in like Salah. When he's glued to the touchline, he's at his best.
Yeah, I can imagine that's going to be an interesting battle, actually, just because the games that Robertson's being asked to play, sort of how many he's without rest at the moment. His form this season's been interesting. There've been some good games, and I think there's been a natural kind of physical decline that's just inevitable, that he can't quite do sort of the mad running that he was doing a few years ago. So I think I would expect Slot to have been alive to that and think, okay, whenever Traore has got the ball and is running at Robertson, and there's the potential for Tete to overlap, that there's going to be somebody who dovetails in, helps Robertson in those moments, whether it be Gravenberg, whether it be, obviously McAllister is out for this game, which will be a big loss. But whether it's Curtis Jones, whether it's Szoboszlai, depending on how they line up, I think those midfielders helping and supporting the fullbacks is going to be vital for sure. And
I think it's interesting that you mentioned Andy Robertson. I wanted to talk about left backs in this game because I took a lot of shtick online recently, and I stand by it. I said that Anthony Robinson was a top 10 left back in the world. Maybe that's my American bias. I stand by it. He's the best player on the U.S. national team by a country mile. Well, not a country mile because there's Christian Pulisic, but he's the second name on the team sheet every single time. And he is maybe, I would argue, the most important player on the U.S. national team. I think you could take Pulisic out and make it work. I think if you lose Anthony Robinson, they're cooked. And I think Fulham's the same way. I'm shocked he hasn't been bought by a bigger club. And at this stage in their careers, I'm saying this in an area where I'm sure I will be battered online further, but I can handle it. I think Anthony's better than Andrew Robertson at this point in his career. I think at least on current form, at the very least. And I wouldn't be shocked if Liverpool made that move next summer to make a replacement. I think Robertson's 30, so there's reason for it from an age perspective. Now, Anthony's 27, so you're not getting that much younger. But I know Liverpool have a number of players in their youth system that maybe could fill that role as well. But it wouldn't shock me if Anthony leaves after this year. He's due for a big step up. I think there are a number of clubs that could use a player like him. I said he's better than Ferland Mendy, who's having an awful year at Real Madrid. They could use a left back. I think there's a number of big clubs out there in Europe that could use a player like Anthony Robinson, who does literally everything. The only thing he's not that good at is his passing, and he makes it work. The numbers aren't great, but you don't leave a match, whether it be the U.S. national team or Fulham, and you go, wow, Anthony Robinson gave the ball away in bad areas. He doesn't do that. His passing can sometimes be a little high risk, but he doesn't do high risk passing in dangerous areas. So, and everything else numbers wise is off the charts. His defensive work rate is high. His one-on-one defending is outstanding. His attacking involvement is great. He's just an all-around great player. And I think if Liverpool are maybe looking to replace Andy Robertson with somebody way younger, then Jedi's not your guy. But if you want to get a little bit younger and get a guy in their prime, I think it's a good fit. I really do.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of one cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high-fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.